Hi everyone, welcome. Today we're feeding the European night crawlers. I abbreviate European night crawler as ENC. And these ENCs, bins number 1 and 2, have been in service for 33 days now. It was day 19 when we checked in on them, and we're now day up to 33, so 14 days. 2 weeks ago today was the last feeding. I'm curious to see how the grapes that we gave them are coming along. So I threw a bunch of grapes in here as part of the feeding. Grapes is just, I guess, one of those things that normally don't remain as leftovers or stick around long enough to spoil, but in this case I had some grapes that I fed last time, and the reason I'm curious to see how they came along was because I've got more grapes for them. There's an assortment of stuff here. There's like the stump end of a head of romaine lettuce. I see carrots down in there, pieces of radish, apple peel, lettuce leaves, and some red grapes. So hopefully the yellow grapes that they got last time were something they liked, because then it's fair to assume, well, is it fair to assume? I guess I'll assume that they'll like the purple ones as well. So we fed down the middle, and those coffee filters that we left out on the feeding zones were meant to show us where we last fed in case it wasn't completely obvious. But since we've got replacement filters to deploy as replacement feeding zone indicators, the ones that we used last time could just get used as supplemental bedding down in the feeding zone. So here's some bedding that we used last time, didn't get broken down very much. So it'll just go right back down into the feeding zone when we reset. And here is some more paper products, bedding type stuff. I just threw a little tear on each of those fragments of paper as I handled them. I just can't seem to resist wanting to break some of these materials down a little bit when I've got the chance. And over between that coffee filter, I think that was, in this piece of napkin or paper towel or whatever this is, there was a good many worms hanging in between the two. As far as the layers in between the stuff, not so much. This thing will get another little bit of my tearing away treatment. Just basically attempting to increase the system's or the material's surface area a little bit if I can. Aha, the first of the corn cobs. Corn cobs, even though these systems are only 33 days of age, these corn cobs have been going for like something like, I don't know, I should have written it down. It was on the spreadsheet in front of me a moment ago. 278 days maybe? If that number's incorrect, I guess I'll probably flash something on the screen to clarify. So here I just saw a few worms hanging out, enjoying something that they must have not managed to polish off over the past 2 weeks. Interesting that they're still working down some of the last feeding. As the temperatures rise, now that we're nearing summer, or at least it feels that way in the past few days, temperatures are going to rise. I believe that the worm activity is going to increase. Moisture level down here is not too bad. I'll launch that little guy right onto my clean hand. And even my clean hand, I believe, is going to get a little bit dirty. I just noticed this tear in my glove. So I did find 2 of those. Oops. And just from handling it, I could feel my finger starting to press into the side of it as if it was going to crack, just under the pressure of me picking it up to move it over there. So these corn cobs are very close to being, fragments just on their own. Probably going to fall apart at some point soon. And then here's one more. And that piece right there might have chipped off from me bumping into it there just now, and that piece fell off too. So these things are super fragile, but I've been doing my best to hang on to them and let only the bin activity, the worm traffic, microbes, moisture, bacteria, fungi, everything that's doing its job in here, let that be the only stuff that really contributes to the breakdown of those corn cob bits without my help. So I think now that we've done a pretty thorough exploration over in bin number 1. Here in bin number 2, it's fair to assume that we're going to encounter very similar stuff. These pieces of bedding material that we deployed last time just seem like they're in a big pile. So we'll give them the same treatment as the big pieces of paper got in bin number 1. We'll just see if we could put a little tear in each piece as we move it from point A to point B. I'm just getting it out of my way at this point, piling it up so we can size up how much we've got there. while putting a little tear in it. And I like being generous with the bedding, but sometimes I feel like I should be not so generous, because sometimes I run myself into a situation where it feels like I've just used up all my available space way too quickly, and then I'm like working in a cornered state because I don't have room to move stuff about the way I like to. Look at all these little wormies. They're not going to like being out in the bright lights. They're going to squirm out of view quick, I'm sure. Nice big leftover banana peel here, I see. And other things. Well, all these little guys had somewhere to hide except for these guys on my thumb. They made their way to the very upside down facing side of my glove over there to get out of the bright lights, but I figured, you know what, let's give them a break. Enough of that. Set them back down into the bin where they can crawl into some real darkness and get out of view. Every time I feel something cylindrical like this piece of corn cob, I back off, not wanting to bust it up. I don't remember, was that the first piece of corn cob we found? I can't remember how many went into each system. Perhaps 3 or 4. Looks like a chunk of cabbage or something, some left over. I don't want to turn that corn cob deployment from all those months ago into any sort of a theme here. Not all that interested, but I did want to just bring them over without messing with them and really let the process of their natural breakdown continue here with the worms that it started out with. And I'll do what's reasonable. But the fact that I bump into one and sort of crack it a little bit doesn't really register in my mind as a problem at all. It's sort of an experiment that I had thought would have ended by this time. And it's only because I invested some energy in the beginning of it to take those corn cobs that we used in these bins, and they didn't just come in after the corn had been eaten off of them. They got soaked, they got frozen. I think they got thawed out and soaked and frozen a second time. So they went through this little setup process, and I just felt myself breaking this one again, I think, just from touching it, from lifting it. So that one is so fragile. I think if it keeps acting that way, maybe I'll just break it out of whatever. Just, hey, if you want to break up that badly, then I'll help you. Oh, look at this. I didn't even think to look inside the banana peel. And the fact that we found a banana peel over here in bin number 2, it didn't even occur to me to go looking for one that we didn't really stumble on in bin number 1, but it's probably here since we feed very similarly. But you know what? I'm not going to do it. Not that interesting. Let's just get these little guys fed and let them get back to their work, breaking my stuff down. So we're going to reuse the old coffee filters that had been our feeding zone indicators, but you know what, there's already a good bit of bedding type stuff down there. I'd like to get a little food on that first, and then in can come the next layer, which will be that, because as you saw, when the stuff is just thrown in there, it sort of sits there. It doesn't really go anywhere. So it did seem to me like if we at least separate it from the other bedding type materials with some food, it'll almost certainly get nibbled away at a little bit better that way, hopefully. But that's the thinking behind that. And some further goodies to bring some worm traffic in the direction of the feeding is some nice coffee. 1 day's worth for each system. Very nice, very nice. Putting the feeding zone indicators away while the coffee filters to be deployed as our replacement feeding zone indicators. And a little bit of grit. And that's pretty much it. But I can't resist. I got my prepared bedding here. Let's just give them a little bit. I don't want to go too overboard. I find myself being super generous, and then I work my way out of space that I like to keep in reserve to make working on the systems a little more comfortable for me, and not, I just don't feel like I want to try to push it so hard towards the point where I'm already at capacity, especially with these younger systems. They've got plenty of time to work through all this material that these systems were built out of. There's tons of bedding in these systems. So they have everything they need. I don't need to be ridiculously over generous, although it is fun sometimes. And I guess if you give the worms a larger domain in which to live, they also start to sense that and feel more prone to... I like pulling material from the sides this way. Gives me a chance to size it up, feel how it's coming along. Being furthest away from the feeding zone, sometimes I worry that maybe not enough moisture gets there. But these systems feel very cozy all the way out to the edges. Perhaps a little bit of material over there on the surface where a little bit of air was able to sneak in was the only place where things might have gotten a little bit dry, but I don't think enough to warrant any sort of attempt to compensate. It feels really nice in here. All that yummy fruit and veggie matter we just gave them is also, as it thaws out, going to kick off moisture, so I think moisture in these systems are right on the money. I mean, you saw it. The worms looked really happy and healthy in here. Even the top covering pieces of newspaper have like little pockets of standing water on them. So we've definitely got ample moisture in here, or at least so it seems to me. And slowly but surely, I think as the humid weather of the summer months starts to roll in, less furnace means more humidity in the air in the house. When the furnace runs all summer, all winter long, that heated air just gets so dry, and that translates into worm bins wanting to let their moisture be sucked up by the dry air. Well, as we see less and less furnace activity, I've been feeling the need less and less to add moisture to my systems. So that's it for the check-in, everyone. Hopefully you enjoyed it. If you did, as always, please don't forget to leave me a quick thumbs up before you go. That's always really appreciated. And if you haven't done so already, please also consider subscribing to the channel. That's very much appreciated as well. All right, everyone. Thanks for watching. Have a great day. Bye now.